Hi, I'm Cindy Morales. Welcome back to the Shout My Story podcast, where we share stories of women who choose life in difficult circumstances and the people who help them. If you like our content, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Now, let's get to our guest. Becky Hagan is one of today's leading speakers on the issues of teenage pregnancy, abortion, and the abortion pill reversal. She has a great story, and that's why we invited her on today. So, Rebecca, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Cindy. Happy to be here.
I am so excited to meet you in person and also hear your story because I don't know all of it, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it. So can you share your story, starting wherever you normally start, maybe when you're a senior in high school, or even going back a little further and talking a little bit about your family background?
Sure. And please, Cindy, feel free to jump in and say, well, what do you mean by that? Or I'd like you to, dive into that a little bit. But basically, the short version is I had my first baby when I was a senior in high school, actually going into my senior year of high school. And, I was 17, had already been accepted to college, had a lot of things going for me. And at the time, I was coming from a Christian background. My parents obviously were not happy about the news of me being pregnant, right, at 17 and in high school. And they were mad and all of the things. But at the time, I think I thought I can do this. And there's really no need to even have abortion on the table. I joke, but this was my mindset at the time that I thought, how hard could having a baby be? We'll just do it. And we did. My parents' anger eventually wore off, and I was able to graduate from high school a little bit early. I delivered a little boy, and I turned 18 shortly after and immediately started attending college at a local university in Northern California, where I was from. And because I had only put in the hard work, and by hard work, I mean sleepless nights, going to school, going to work, taking care of baby, but I hadn't put in any of the heart work. So I didn't have a real transformative relationship with Jesus. I didn't change any of my old ways. I wasn't connected to discipleship or a pregnancy center. I was really doing it alone. So none of the internal transformational work had occurred. So that's a problem, right? Because behind closed doors, I'm still living the same life, still making the same poor choices. And now I've got a baby in tow along with me. And about 9 or so months into this new life where I'm a young adult, 18, I have this 9.5-month-old baby. I'm a freshman in college. My relationship with my son's father became very violent. It had been that way, but it was growing, as violence often does. And there was all sorts of unsafe stuff going on, drug addiction, drugs being sold. And I ended the relationship and really turned to my parents, scared to let them down, but not having anyone else to tell. What are you going to do? I have to tell them my secret, that I've been lying, that I need help, that we aren't safe. And so they agreed to let me and my son live in their home, but they set some really standard ground rules. They basically said, we will help you, but we're not going to be your full-time childcare. You will still go to school. You'll maintain a job. You'll get good grades. And then promise us you will move out of this house eventually. All the things you want for your young adult daughter. And they were really helping me kind of rewrite the plan and make sure that this story ended in hope. And at the same time that my parents extended this second chance, this fresh start, I was really grateful, but something was just kind of stirring in me, I guess. It was making me nervous, and I thought it was anxiety and my nerves. But I decided I would kind of try to assure myself that all loose ends from that past relationship that had now ended, that those loose ends had all been severed. So I took a pregnancy test just to calm myself down, move on with life, right? And I'll never forget sitting in that grocery store bathroom before work one morning and looking down at a test that's supposed to be negative, that I'm not mentally prepared to be anything except for negative. I don't look pregnant. I don't feel pregnant. And lo and behold, staring back up at me were two bright pink lines. And unlike with my first baby, where it was, we can do this, there's hope, I don't need abortion. I'm kind of pro-life. I'm a Christian. Mom and dad will forgive me. I'll take the baby to school. This time it was my life is over and I've ruined my toddler's life and my parents' life and I can't come back from this twice is what I thought. And so I started immediately searching for an abortion, even though I was a Christian who was actively attending church. And I just chalked it up to God is going to have to forgive me on this one. And I had been told my whole life that we serve a forgiving Father. So I knew that He would, but the problem was I didn't fear God. I just walked right into sin, thinking it was no big deal, that it was the answer. And the world tells young women that abortion, particularly medication or chemical abortion, that it is a responsible, moral, compassionate choice to preserve your future, to make sure you can stay in school, achieve your hopes and dreams, to spare the children you already have from pain and suffering and a lack of resources, to spare the baby you're carrying a lack of resources and pain and suffering, to spare your parents shame and embarrassment. So, all things considered, that's how abortion is marketed and sold. And that's what I bought into. And I found an abortion provider, which was not hard at the time in the state of California. They were everywhere, right? Specifically chose chemical abortion, short of the long, started that process and took the first abortion pill. And immediately after leaving the abortion clinic, I got to my car and I started fiddling through this brown lunch sack that they give you full of abortion medication that you are instructed to finish the next day. And we could talk about that a little bit later if you want, how chemical abortion works.
Well, I
You
do want to go
probably
back
know.
just a second and just say, what
Sure.
made you choose chemical abortion? Did you feel like it was like more remote? Like surgery is almost really intimate, you know? You're on a
Yeah,
table, they open you up, they suck you out. I mean, you know, it's intimate. With the abortion pills a little more remote, do you think?
yes, it's definitely remote. I don't know if that's the word I would have used at the time. It's definitely a feeling of private. It's a feeling of safety. You know, the way they market chemical abortion still is this will be just like a heavy menstrual cycle. And as a woman, you're thinking, okay, well, I could do that. My body knows how to do that. And you're told, you know, you'll bleed and you'll cramp, but you really shouldn't be too uncomfortable. You'll have a heating pad. We'll give you some pain medication, and it's a lot easier, Cindy, to compartmentalize taking a couple of pills that you're told will just end and expel your pregnancy, and you don't even really think about what those words mean, than it is to be under sedation, dressed down in a hospital gown, lay on a bed, hear instruments, hear suction noises. That's really hard to compartmentalize and to forget. I mean, I honestly thought that if I had to have had a surgical abortion, which if that had been my only option, I wouldn't have chosen to terminate at all. I honestly thought I can't bring myself to do it. It's too hard. I'm really doing something wrong. But the way the abortion industry has marketed chemical abortion, you now, young women, tell themselves, well, how wrong could taking a couple of pills really be? And the same way they market Advil for a problem headache or backache, they market the abortion pill for a problem pregnancy. And if you are able to sell somebody plan A, which I guess would be birth control, and plan A fails, and you sell them plan B, which is the morning after pill, and that fails, and they still become pregnant. Well, now you just sell them plan C. And that's what the abortion pill has done. And they call this plan C. And it's sort of a hop, skip, and a jump from where you started. And you just keep telling yourself, well, I'll just take more pills. I'll just take more medication. I'll just take more drugs. And sooner or later, my problem's going to be over. And so that's how you're able to justify your decision and specifically make the decision to have a chemical abortion.
Okay, so you're sitting in the car, you got your brown paper bag.
Yeah.
I watched
Yep.
Unplanned, so I saw that in the movie.
Yeah, it was much like that, and still to this day, it's like that. A lot of what happens in an abortion clinic or at Planned Parenthood hasn't changed. So I took the first abortion pill in the clinic with a nurse. Keep in mind, Cindy, a lot of that has been removed with
Oh, yeah.
mail order
Right.
abortion, which is very unsafe because that means a woman's never having an ultrasound. She's never having her blood pressure taken. Nobody's really interfacing with her, making sure she's okay. I at least, did take it in a clinic setting. So I took the abortion pill and was 2 minutes later sent on my way. I was told that the first pill would just end my pregnancy. Didn't think to ask how, and was told 24 hours later to take a second set of 4 pills that would expel my pregnancy, that would bring on the cramping and the bleeding. And again, I'm 18, I've got a baby at home, I'm in crisis mode. I don't think to ask how that works, what will really happen. I didn't know that the second set of medication that you take is actually the same drug given to women in active labor because it causes their cervix to dilate and to contract. And so I was literally being sent home to labor over the toilet without even knowing what was going to happen to my body. And that's frightening. Anyone who thinks this is good healthcare has really been duped and deceived. But you're just so in a rush to get out of there and believing what you're hearing that I grabbed that paper bag, I got to my car, and I started to look through it. And the best way I can describe it, Cindy, you may have heard me say this before, is it's like if you're trying to see through a foggy lens and nothing's really making sense and you can't really tell where you're going. And all of a sudden, the weather lets up and that foggy lens clears, and you can now see you're headed for a disaster. That's what happened. Like, I wasn't able to make out how I would feel, where this would lead me. It's foggy. I'm not making good choices. And all of a sudden, the windshield cleared, and I said, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do? I'm headed for disaster. I don't even think I believe in abortion. Do I? I don't know. And has this pill already run its course? Has my baby already died? What will I really feel tomorrow when I'm supposed to take that second set of pills? What if I don't feel normal? What if I do regret this a year from now for my entire life?" All the things that go through your mind. And the really sad part about a chemical or medication abortion is, with a surgical procedure, if you've ever known somebody to walk through after abortion care, you go through steps where you write a letter to the doctor and you write a letter to the nurse and you maybe write a letter to the clinic staff, all of which you never send, but it's part of the healing journey because other people were involved in your decision. And when it comes to a chemical abortion, you know mostly that the blood is on your hands. I did this. I swallowed that pill. I drove myself to the clinic. I made this decision. I ordered the pills online. And that is just a hard reality to sit in. And that's what I was realizing. And so I frantically am like hysterical. I'm praying. And I knew I couldn't go back into the abortion provider because they had already said, once you start this, there's no going back. So they're going to think I'm nuts and they don't have any options for me, right? What's the point of embarrassing myself? They're just going to send me on my way. And so I just started Googling on my phone for another way, for a different answer. And I started typing in things like, I started a medication abortion and I don't want to finish it. I took the first abortion pill and I don't want to take the second, because 10 years ago, the term abortion pill reversal was not, it wasn't even a thought in anyone's head. So as I turned to the internet, I realized that women, ever since the FDA approved chemical abortion in the year 2000, and ever since the internet caught up, women just like me had been turning to Google saying, "I've made a big mistake. Someone help me." But the answers they received were not hopeful or helpful. Things like, you have to finish what you started.
So how did you
And so
find?
finally,
Okay, so I wouldn't like. How did you even think in your head? Oh, I may be able to get help. How did that even occur to you? Because no one had heard of abortion. Like you said, no abortion pill reversal wasn't in the lexicon.
right, I don't think I really thought I could get help, but I think I'm from a generation where we put everything into Google and ask, even if I don't think there'll be an answer. Or maybe I'll stumble upon a blog and I'll read about somebody's story and I'll find comfort in it and she'll help me feel better. Maybe I'll learn a little bit about what tomorrow, when I take that second set of pills, is going to be like. I don't think I really thought that there would be a solution to my problem at all. But again, I think in today's world, we just put everything on the internet.
Okay, so how did you find did you go to Dr. Delgado?
So I was helped by Dr. Delgado's clinic. That's sort of a funny story. So I found them online. I joke, they were on page 2 of Google at the time, but they were. I mean, they did not have a robust budget. They didn't have the means. This website had just launched and it wasn't easy to find. And so I called Dr. Delgado's clinic, although I didn't know who he was or who I was calling, But Dr. Delgado was several hours away from me. And thankfully, he has a brother who is also a physician who was only about an hour and a half from me. And so that's where I went. And they basically said, you've taken a pill to deprive your pregnancy of progesterone. There are no for sure's, but if we attempt to get progesterone back into your body, there is a chance, no certainties, that we could outcompete the abortion pill. Do you want to let us try? And I said yes. And within probably 15 hours of taking that first abortion pill, I was sitting in a doctor's office receiving progesterone in an attempt to reverse it, essentially.
Okay. Obviously.
I didn't know if you wanted to chime in, Cynthia.
Oh, no, I'm listening. I'm thinking, well, it obviously worked. What are the chances?
Yes. Okay. So you're going to talk about my life now. So I stayed on that progesterone for several weeks. And of course, you're afraid the entire time because the abortion clinic still to this day tells women there's no going back. What those people have told you is crazy. Your baby will be born with severe fetal anomalies, all the things that makes it very hard to sleep at night. But I just gave it to the Lord, and I had to come to a point where I said, even if we're broke, and even if my dad kicks us out, and even if I never graduate from college and my kids never have a dad, and even if, yes, this baby has a fetal anomaly, their life has value, and I have to stop trying to end it. And that gave me some relief throughout the process.
So for people who don't know, I mentioned Dr. Delgado. He is the guy who figured this out, right? He's the first person to do it, or is he one of the first?
Yeah, so there are two doctors who, without knowing each other in two different parts of the country at almost the same time, developed abortion pill reversal. And one of them is Dr. George Delgado, and George Delgado went further, and he actually developed the network. So he started putting the pieces together, getting doctors together, getting medical literature out there. The other is Dr. Matt Harrison, who lives in North Carolina. So two doctors at the same time realized, oh my goodness, we both have had women come to us and say, I've made a mistake. Can you help me? And so I'm not a medical professional, but I have spent a lot of time with them and with others. And they thought about it and said, I understand the science behind the abortion pill, that it's a progesterone inhibitor, that it blocks progesterone. It's a progesterone antagonist. Even the abortion industry will tell you are inducing a miscarriage. Well, that's because women often miscarry with low progesterone.
I was going to say, isn't giving progesterone like common treatment for women in higher risk pregnancies? Is like, we're going to give you this to try to stave off a miscarriage.
It is. And again, I'm not a medical professional, but it's pretty common knowledge that is women have access to progesterone during their pregnancy if they have a tendency to miscarry, if their progesterone levels are low. And the medical community has been doing that for decades. And so that's what George Delgado and Matt Harrison, both physicians, that's what they came to is, okay, if it's a progesterone inhibitor, well, if we just flood the body with progesterone.
And so what's the number? Do you know off the top of your head the percentage of women for whom this is successful?
I think it's about 60 to 70%.
Okay. And does it matter how fast you start getting the progesterone? I would assume it does.
It does. So I think they like to say that it is best within the first 24 hours, right? Time is of the essence. I'm assuming people's bodies metabolize medication differently, also depending on how far along you are gestationally in the pregnancy. But they have had success all the way up to 72 hours. So they will attempt to help a woman within the 72-hour window, but time is of the essence, and the sooner the better is my understanding.
That would make sense. That makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the supposed concerns that the pro-choice community has with the abortion reversal pill. One of the things that I've noticed is that since the Dobbs decisions, I'm going to call them pro-aborts, the other side they've really stepped up their attacks on the pro-life community. Prior to Dobbs, I don't think they cared. Like, they weren't the two places I've really seen them start to really go after us in the jugular is pregnancy resource centers and abortion pill reversal. And sometimes those things are together. They didn't care before Dobbs because I think they felt complacent. But now they're like, it's like stirring up a hornet's nest. So there's a lot of concern on the abortion pill reversal, and I would like to talk about those. I mentioned when we were talking before we started, I got online and I typed in abortion pill reversal. Now, praise the Lord, the first thing that came up was Heartbeat International and how to get an abortion pill reversal. So that was really great. But I scrolled down a little bit and I got to another website that had an extremely damning report on their website, and their title of the article was "No Abortion Pill Reversal is Not Possible." So just if you happen to know off the top of your head, how many women over the last was it about 13 years ago that you had yours now?
It was about 11
Okay,
years
in the
ago.
last 11 years. And you were one of the earlier people who got it, right?
Yeah.
How many women have been able to save their babies through abortion pill reversal in the last 11 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think statistically, heartbeat statistics say that about 5,000 women. Keep in mind that when this was really grassroots, when this was only being offered in one or two parts of the country and no network was formed and research was still getting out and studies were still being done, their reach was small. And then when another pregnancy help organization sort of took it over, they were able to run with it. They had the 24-hour hotline. They had access to physicians in all parts of the country. So it's really only grown this big since 2018.
Can you think
or so
why a website would say it's not possible when it's obviously possible if 5,000 babies have been born as a result of it? By the way, that same article said essentially this reversal is often offered in fake clinics, So essentially, there was a twofer for them. But is it just because they're so ideologically driven? And what studies are you referring to? There's a study I want to talk about a little bit later that they point out that says that the abortion pill reversal is a very, 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 very dangerous procedure, and that there was a study and they had to stop it because it was so dangerous. And that's the only study they cite. Are there other studies that show it isn't dangerous?
Okay, I'm trying to think where to start because that is a loaded question. Are they ideologically driven? Are they politically driven? I think the answer to that question, as we have seen in the last 10 years in all of medicine, is yes. It is unfortunate that politics has played such a role in the way physicians offer treatment and medicine, how they practice medicine with their patients. Their politics have gotten involved. So yes, that is absolutely a part of it. With Dobbs, the bear was poked and the bear fought back, and they've done a very good job. I think right now we are 0 for 7 in ballot initiatives. We're state by state, they've gone to codify the right to abortion in each state versus having it at the federal level. And I don't think the pro-life movement was expecting how fast and efficient the other side
I don't
would
think
be.
The pro-life movement thought that in deep red states like Kansas that people would codify abortion. And I think that what we forgot is that they have had 50 years to tell people abortion is okay. And I think a lot of the people in the younger generation really don't think of abortion as a very big deal, and they accept the bodily autonomy argument like it's gospel. It's a stupid argument, in my opinion, but it's extremely effective. Well, I'll tell you why. Because I think bodily autonomy, as I understand it, this is a little tangential, is that you can do whatever, no one can use your body without your consent, but there's no thought that there's an action that you're doing that will result in the creation of a little human that you then terminate, not just any rando human, your child. It results in your child that you then terminate so that you can do whatever you want with your body. And I'm always thinking to myself, yeah, but you're not a psycho or anything. It's like, oh. So anyway, that's a little off topic. But so in terms of abortion, so there's about 5,000 people that say that they're wrong. But what about the complications? Is it true that you're going to have babies with more fetal anomalies? Is it true that you have, if this doesn't work, you have heavy bleeding and end up in the hospital? What are the facts?
Sure, we can jump into that. Let me say, I think in regards to what you were saying about conservative states and how we weren't expecting that, I agree with you. And you have people who are Christians, who are well-meaning, who say things like, I'm pro-life and I would never choose abortion, but my goodness, I would never want to make that decision for someone else. And I think that's what people weren't expecting, because those people are voting in favor of these amendments to codify the right to abortion, even though they're saying, I personally don't like it, but I don't want to make choices for other people.
I'm personally pro-life, but
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And there's a lack of education and the unwillingness to offend. And I'm not talking about being unnecessarily rude and offensive, but to stand up for what is right. And as believers, what is moral and sound and aligned with
I think
faith.
that people who say they're Christian and support abortion, they're doing so out of a sense of false compassion. Like, oh, I can't.
Absolutely.
I couldn't, I'm not in that situation. I don't know. I must walk with my brother and sister. Right. It isn't. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Those people are voting. But for the people who are like you, who are like, oh, no, I made this terrible mistake. But they go to the internet like I did, and then they read this article. Let me tell you what they said. First, they said it wasn't possible. And then they said that the abortion pill reversal was dangerous, unproven, can cause serious bleeding. Mm-hmm. And then it goes into this study that it seemed to me was very poorly conducted, but basically confirms those things, that it's very, very dangerous. So if I'm a young woman and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I want to reverse this, I made a mistake, but I read that, I would feel very despairing. So that's what I want to talk about. Does the abortion pill reversal process cause dangerous bleeding that ends you up in the emergency room?
Okay, so I can answer this from a few different ways. I'll first again say, I'm not a medical professional, but I have worked alongside so many of them ever since I went through APR, abortion pill reversal, which I don't think I said this earlier, but just so we're clear for your viewers, my baby was born perfectly healthy. He'll be 11 years old later this year, and he's thriving. He's amazing. And as the years have passed and more women have had access to APR, they have determined rather, that the chance of a fetal anomaly or risk to the baby is actually lower than that of the general public. So general public, you have a 3% chance of a fetal anomaly. And with the pool of APR babies, of children born after their mom started abortion pill reversal, the chance of some type of abnormality is 2%. So less than the general public, which means no, abortion pill reversal does not increase the risk for something being wrong with mom or baby. Keep in mind, Cindy, there have been no lawsuits by any women, even ones who have attempted and not been successful with abortion pill reversal. Not a single woman has stepped up and say, these people hurt me. I was lied to. I was duped. I was tricked. I was severely hurt. I need compensation. Not one lawsuit, and I've sat knee to knee with some of these women, and they've said, thank you for giving me the opportunity to try. And then, of course, women like me whose babies have been saved, were saying, thank you for giving me the opportunity to make a second choice, a second chance at choosing.
So for the women for whom it was not successful, the women who they weren't successful, did any of them end up in the emergency room with heavy bleeding?
I don't know all of them. I can't answer that. entirely. I can tell you the study that you're referring to that I believe was done in 2020, and I believe you're probably talking
Yeah.
about the Kreinen study, was faulty to begin with. And what happened was, and this is just my, again, non-medical understanding, although I work in this world and I've worked in pro-life work for 10 years and I've lived it, is that there was a doctor who wanted to debunk and disprove abortion pill reversal. So that's a problem to begin with, because he went into this with motives, right? He wasn't serious about testing the efficacy and the science behind abortion pill reversal. And what he did is he enrolled women who were going to have an abortion. And he said, we will pay for your abortion, and we would like to ensure that you have a chemical abortion. And mid-process, we're going to administer progesterone, APR, and we're going to see how this works. And even if you're still pregnant, we will pay for the rest of the abortion. And this is the way they want medical studies to be done. The reason they take so much issue with the way that the pro-life community has studied abortion pill reversal is because we refuse to enroll women into a control group and a test group where one is given a placebo and their baby just aborts and the other is given progesterone. Morally, we can't do that. We can't we can't facilitate abortions for scientific reasons. Does that make sense? We're not going to tell a desperate woman, or even a woman who's willing to participate, that we're going to maybe reverse her abortion and maybe not. But they did, and they created this study where they said, we will put half of these women in a test group where they are given abortion pill, mifepristone, and progesterone, and the other half of these women in a control group where they are just given the abortion pill. They were supposed to enroll a certain amount of women, and they actually didn't enroll that many women. They enrolled a fraction. So again, faulty, a problem, right? And then 5 of the women, I believe, I don't have the study right in front of me, in total needed to go to the emergency room. They had heavy bleeding, and they stopped the study right then and there. And they said that it was because abortion pill reversal was harming these women. This progesterone was hurting these people. This was a danger to women and to society, and this must be stopped. And then as you peel back the layers, you start to realize, wait a minute, of the 5 who went to the emergency room, only 1 had received progesterone, but all of them had received the abortion pill. So what caused the bleeding? What caused the hemorrhaging? Was it progesterone? That's impossible, because not all of them had received progesterone. It was the abortion pill. And that's what we've been saying. The abortion pill is unsafe for women. Thank you for proving our point.
Okay. Well, I hope that helps anyone who's got some concerns. I hope that alleviates them. So real quick, if you need information about APR, where can you go on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of different websites, and one of them is abortionpillreversal.com. There's also a hotline number that I don't have memorized. You could also probably access it if you went to optionline.com. They would be able to lead you over to abortion pill reversal, which, keep in mind, their phone lines are answered by physicians, nurses, medical professionals. It's not lay people answering the APR hotline calls.
Okay, and you're a speaker. You go around talking about this to people. So if anyone wants to get a hold of you and have you come and speak to their group or whatever, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So you can find me online under rebeccahagan.org. And yeah, I'm happy to share. And I focus a lot about the marketing and selling of abortion, because that's why these women are getting into this situation in the first place, is because the abortion industry has just created so much deception and evil with access to the abortion pill without any oversight.
All right. I thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and I've looked forward to meeting you, and I'm glad I now have. I really appreciate it. Thanks. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me, Cindy.
Thank you for tuning in to the Shout My Story podcast. You can listen to future episodes anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can watch us on our YouTube channel, Shout My Story. If you have a story to shout, please contact us at info@shoutmystory.org. Choose love, choose life.